So welcome everyone to 2025 and the monthly Church Earthkeepers Meetups. My name is Rick Faw and I work with Rocha Canada, and it's great to have you all here. These meetups, what are these for? These are for people that care about creation and they want to grow in the ability to mobilize their church to also care for creation. So that's what these are about. So we get different people in every month, or we profile different tools or resources every month in order to encourage and equip people to work in their churches to get them to care for creation. So that's what we're on about. This month we have a guest, and for me, they're all special guests, but this month it's a special guest for me because Graham and I, this is Graham Peters, we are colleagues. So it's delightful to work alongside Graham. Graham is I got to get your title right, the Conservation Science Coordinator. Did I get that right?
Nailed it. You got it.
Conservation Science Coordinator for our operations in Manitoba, particularly in the Winnipeg region. But today, although Graham, I'm sure, Graham, I know you well enough that you can't resist talking about creatures and science and the outdoors, and that's where you get to spend most of your time. But today, I've actually asked you to come on to talk about a few other things, but I'm sure you'll weave in some of that other good work. I hope you do, because uh, last June, we didn't get to work together just kind of virtually. We were actually together in person. And so it's that event that I want to hear about a little bit more. So just to set this up just a wee bit. So a couple of years ago, the Manitoba team, our colleagues, they decided to start working with with a church, and then they did a second one with the church on a project called Consider the Lilies. Consider the Lilies. Um, and so my first question for you, Graham, is what is Consider the Lilies? This
Yeah,
partnership with the church.
yeah, that's a good question. Um, so yeah, it's a pretty unique kind of conference. I'll say the way that's kind of similar to a lot of other conferences is that there's kind of lecture spaces and breakout kind of choose your own adventure, discussion and learning spaces. And we also try and do some kind of action things. We want to put some of this stuff into practice, and that's taken multiple forms over the 2 years that we've done this. But the way that Consider the Lilies is unique is that it is a specific partnership between a Rasha and a specific church. So we actually get connected with a church in 2023 that was St. Margaret's Anglican Church. And in 2024, that was Westwood Community Church, which is the church that I attend. And it's really just kind of an overlapping of missions and goals where the church will come to, or we'll approach the church, or the church will come to us. It's kind of a both end kind of situation. And we put on this conference together. They're not just hosting it; they are a part of building this conference.
Yeah, that's what I have both observed. And then last June, when Consider the Lilies was happening at your church, Westwood Community, um, I got to be there. So I got to see it in action, which was great. And one of the things I appreciated is in this kind of intentional linkage with the church is not mere venue. The church is sort of active partner. And therefore the target outcomes are at least largely focused on the host church. So much of how we design the weekend in partnership with the host, the partner church, is to what will be useful and attractive for your congregation. Now, was it just people from Westwood that attended last year?
No, and both years we invite people from lots of different
Right.
churches. Uh, um, Off the top of my head, I'm not remembering how many congregations were represented. Um,
It was like 15 or something, I think.
Something like that. I want to say
Yeah.
15 might be the upper end.
Hmm.
But yeah, we host we put the word out to all kinds of churches. There's like handing out flyers as part of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's lots of folks that come and are a part of Consider the Lilies, not just the congregation of the host
Hmm.
church.
Another thing because I've been a part of a few of these, I've only been to one Consider the Lilies, but I've been a part of a few conferences and even a couple conferences with churches. One of the things I really appreciated last year about the Consider the Lilies is the the mixed the elements that were some like teaching. There was some almost like contemplative, I'm not sure quite how to put it, almost meditation type. I'm thinking of the art exhibit that was a part of it. And then there's definitely an active get, let's go out and see, like uh, and some hands dirty bits of it too. Can you describe a little bit more about those different components?
Yeah, for sure. Um, well, so we knew we wanted to equip the churches. So we knew we wanted to have these different learning spaces, these workshop spaces where people can ask these like practical questions from people who have had these experiences. Um, and we also knew that we wanted to um, reach people at different stages in their journey with what is creation care in the church. I think if you're at Consider the Lilies, you're at least on some level going, this is a good thing that the church should be doing. But some people are maybe further along in their journey and they're wondering like, is it worth it? Like, I've been fighting real hard and I'm tired. And so
Mm,
we have these kind of contemplative spaces and these learning spaces where we wrestle with grief or wrestle with um, uh, um, growing an existing thing. And then we have other people who are new and really eager to learn more about where to get started. And so then we have these kind of baseline, just what does creation care in the church look like? Um, and then I'll say also, you mentioned the like the art piece and the active element. We knew that
mhm,
was something we wanted. We knew we wanted to actually give people an example, something tactile, something tangible.
mhm,
Um, and for the art piece, this was something we knew that there was a member in the congregation who kind of fit in the Venn diagram of creation care and artist. And then she would create these wonderful pieces for the church during like Christmas and Easter and have these really thoughtful processes. And this was a really great opportunity for her to engage in this and
mm,
then invite other people to engage as well. She had these tree pucks, we call them, which is just kind of a cross section of a tree. She's an arborist, so she has lots of these on hand, and people could write on them. And then it was a response to a question, so it was a reflective question. Um, it was, what do you love and never want to lose
mm,
to, I can't remember if we said climate change or just
mm.
generally in the world of
Right.
diversity loss.
Yeah.
Um, and then we did I'll say quickly also, we did a tree planting, which was just a really
Mm,
super hands-on, practical, and I'll say even eye-opening for some people to go, what
mhm.
we can do native tree plantings.
Yeah.
There's resources for this.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's, yeah, to just show people how it's possible and just really just add that evidence, like really make it
Mhm.
clear to everybody at all the stages where they're at, that how creation care can be done in the church.
Yeah, that's helpful. And I want to come back to the tree planting thing. I want to explore that a little bit more, but I do love the way that we attempted to incorporate kind of head, hands, heart. Like there was definitely talking. We had Sylvia Keysmat and a couple other kind of teacher professor types that spoke on a couple of different topics. So there was definitely like content, but different than some conferences insofar as it also included this, hey, okay, we're actually going to go out and grab shovels. Like we're actually going to dig. Like we're actually going to do that. But then also there was the day where we did a couple field trips. I got to attend one of them, and then you led the other one. So I'll let you talk about the one you did. But the one I went on, I loved it. We did a farm tour. We went to four different farms, and they exposed us to everything from like a 3/4 acre operation in the middle of Winnipeg, all the way to sort of more industrial scale, where the guy said, "Yeah, we don't really have a piece of equipment that's worth less than $1 million." Holy cow! So like a huge range, and a couple other ones in between, and we got to talk. Like so this was a tour that took us a good better part of the day, really. So we got an hour or more, an hour almost hour and a half at each at one four different stops, and we really got a sense of, wow, this is a very different sort of operation in each case. And we got a sense of like why they're doing what they're doing and the choices they make. We got to chat with them. It was terribly instructive. And it also blended really well with the creation care themes because we're talking about, okay, how does this work for the health of soil? And does this work for feeding people who need it and so on? So I really appreciated that. That was excellent. Though I heard it might have been the second best field trip because you were leading one. And what did yours do?
I will say, I'll say, it depends on how you look at it. Because I will say, I was a little jealous that I didn't get to go on the farm tour because I was leading this one at the center. It sounds like you got to see a good diversity of things. We
Yeah.
just got to see, I won't say just, we went out to the Boreal Ecology Center, which is kind of this location in East Braintree, near the White Shell, if you're familiar, where we do our work, we do our conservation science out there. And so got to lead a bunch of folks down our trails and really just kind of show off um, what conservation projects we're doing out there and what questions we're asking. I think that's the big thing we want
Mhm.
to talk about. Is the forest healthy? What are we looking for before jumping in and deciding, oh, this is
Mhm.
what this forest needs, or this is what
Yeah.
this river needs. And I think it was just really a super space where people got to um, ask their questions as well.
Hmm.
We got to see um, mostly tree and plant diversity. I don't know that we saw too many other animals running around. When you get a group the size that we have, they all kind of want their space. Um, but yeah, people got to really like engage and go, oh, uh, um, this is what's going on out here. There's
Hmm.
an excitement that I find people have when they get to be in creation that they don't get to encounter on the day to day.
Right.
And so things like the river and our forest monitoring projects are really intriguing to people.
That's great. Okay, so we have this picture of like a kind of weekend. So I think the field trips were on the Friday and maybe Friday evening and Saturday there was more like discussions and talks. And I think it ended with one of the keynote speakers, Sylvia Keesmaat, um, uh, preaching at your church on Sunday morning, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
And there's actually some a web presence that we'll put in the chat, but we'll also put it in kind of the show notes for the recording, so you can follow up and get a little bit more sense of the schedule. I want to shift a little bit though and ask you a few questions. So like this was meant to be a bit of a kind of shot in the arm for the creation care work at your church.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit about where your church was at regarding earthkeeping prior to this, and then how it was received in the middle of it, and then like where's it at now, seven
Mhm.
months later? Like give us a bit of a sense, like a big part of the Consider the Lilies format is to say like, hey, can we give a sort of boost, a momentum charge to the earthkeeping activity of a particular congregation? I'm curious how that worked for yours.
Yeah, great question. Uh, if I can be generous, I'll say it was really uh, passive creation care at the church, and that's being generous. I think no one was opposed. Like I think
Right.
if you would say at Westwood before Consider the Lilies, should we care for creation? People would go, sure, and that would kind of be it.
Right.
The end of the discussion. Um, uh, and like you say, I've been an active member at Westwood for a long time, and so when I started with Rocha, I would actually say that's probably where creation care at Westwood started,
Okay.
because I reached out and I asked the church, I said, would you support the work that I do with Rocha
Mm.
under mission? And they kind of went, oh yeah, that is mission work. You're doing that
Yeah.
from a Christian stance. This is mission that you're doing, and so that was really encouraging. And I would call that the first kind of head scratch of Westwood. And then in 2023, there were a few members who came to the Consider the Lilies conference at St. Margaret's. And then
Mm.
that's when when one in particular, one very active member who I'm very thankful for, got really excited and just was emailing me and talking to me on Sunday mornings and going, this is really cool. How can we get this into our church? Can we get this creation care um, idea, this practice into our church? And then so we got talking, and then when we came around to planning the second season of Consider the Lilies in 2024, Westwood's name came up, and then so we reached out to Westwood and we said, um, would you be interested in hosting this? And it was a pretty quick yes. It was a pretty quick yes, and then a pretty quick assembling of individuals who were really excited about what this could do and what this could be going forward. Um, yeah. So that was really that's what I would call the springboard for creation care at Westwood. And I think it was a really encouraging time for people to see how that would work in our setting. And so following Consider the Lilies, we had our own debrief at Westwood where
Mm.
we assembled all the people who attended and we kind of asked, all right, what resonates with us? What didn't resonate with us? Okay,
And roughly how many people did attend? So I have a sense of like this debrief is happening amongst how many?
about 16 people,
Okay.
maybe a few
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
It was a we're a pretty small church, but it was a small group of people.
Okay.
Um, but I'll also say this group of people is among the act like we have kind of a core group that really leads the volunteerism at Westwood.
Mm.
So these people who were interested are the people who are engaged and the people who are now pushing for what comes next.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that's the group. Um,
And what did the debrief elicit? Like, what did this group think?
Yeah. So we talked about what resonates with us, what made sense in terms of action, and what made sense to us in terms of reason. And it was important to us, I think, that we realized that we were really excited about the actions, like we wanted to do
Mm.
this, and then we thought, as this core group, to bring this to the congregation, we need that reason. We need to
Mm.
clarify that reason.
Mm.
And so what we kind of pulled from the conference, from that learning and from some reflection, what Westwood Community Church cares about is their community.
Mm.
And so what we kind of started glomming onto is the wrong way to word that, but is uh, what are the ways that creation care expands our understanding of community,
Mm.
and how can us taking on creation care positively impact our community? So that really narrowed
Mm.
our focus in what we wanted to
Yeah.
take on and what we wanted to take away from Consider the Lilies.
Mm. Yeah. I love the way that that illustrates how the work of earthkeeping can, I mean, in one sense, it's the same everywhere. there's always creation to take care of, and there's environmental degradation in every place you look. But exactly how one particular community might pursue that might be slightly different, and it might be linked to slightly different kind of like in your case, you described it as what Westwood really values. And so that was the spring, or that was the connecting point for, okay, if we're going to go forward with this, it needs to be connected to, and I love I love the way you guys settled on what connects us to our community and what can serve our community. Did I catch that right? Is that
Yeah, yeah. How do we understand our community, and then
right?
how does what we
Yes.
do serve that
Yeah.
community?
Yeah, that's really good. Okay, so what has happened now? Where are you at now? What do you aspire for your church to do next, as this journey kind of evolves?
Yeah, good questions. Uh, so like any good church, the first thing that we did was spend a lot of time talking. Uh, um, which has been good. We've formed a committee, which is again another very church response to wanting to do something. But we've really we jumped into one thing quickly, and then following that, we kind of discerned what is our long-term goals here. So I'll say the one thing we jumped into really quickly was let's put signage up. Let's remind people to recycle, which is like low bar. Like if you ask a lot of people in the creation care sector, they'll go, "Oh, you recycle, good job," and they'll pat you on the head, but the idea was that we wanted to get something first that will give us that momentum and would also that put that language out there, put that awareness out there, um, kind of make public that we're engaging in this. So that was the first thing. We wanted to get something out the gate fast. And then we wanted to now take our time and work through what are the big rocks that we can start pushing. And so in the vein of this, we got our two veins, serving our community and knowing our community. We're working out a creation care service.
Hmm.
So we've done a lot of brainstorming about how to bring this message, bring this idea to the congregation. And then following that, we've seen we're paying attention to what programs in the church people really like. And we had a
Hmm.
really positive response to a book club that was run earlier
Hmm.
in the year. So we're like, all right, let's bring a creation care book in. Let's talk
Hmm.
more about that.
Hmm.
So following this creation care service that we're planning, we want to really be right after that, be ready with this book club, so that people can keep talking and keep that conversation going.
Hmm.
And then the other thing, so the serving the community, um, this team really got onto the garden boxes
Hmm.
really quickly. Like garden
Hmm.
boxes was the thing. And it engaged community in a lot of ways that Westwood liked, and engaged creation care in a lot of ways that were accessible to Westwood.
Hmm.
There's a club that operates out of Westwood called Men's Shed. I don't know if there's an equivalent in Surrey.
I don't
It's
know that.
basically a retired person's club where they get to engage in all kinds of uh, hobbies and practices. And so one person on our team reached out to Men's Shed and said, "Would you build garden boxes for us?" And then like
Hmm.
the next day had the blueprint, like was ready with everything. And so this really engages like it's really we're excited about it because it's uniting more people in our community, like bringing
Hmm.
together more groups.
Hmm.
And then by doing that planning, we want to have these spaces where we can uh, donate food to people.
Hmm.
Uh, um, uh, talked about recently actually that food security is a huge part of
Hmm.
caring for the environment. Food has a big impact. And so if we can bring that awareness and do like in the scheme of things, a couple of garden boxes isn't going to save the world,
Hmm.
but sorry, yes, planters.
Hmm.
Um, uh, yeah, so it's not going to save the world, but it gets people paying attention and it gets people connected on this idea, which we're
Hmm.
really excited about.
They're also nicely visual, like these raised beds, they're probably what, like 20 feet long and 4 feet wide or something along those lines, right? Like, and you
Mhm.
get to see them and you see what happens. Oh, there's green stuff. And, yeah, they're really, they're good in that regard. I'm,
We've talked about it too as putting it in part of one of our park, like somewhere in a parking spot or two in
mm,
the parking lot where we go,
yeah,
hey, this is reserved for this parking spot is reserved for plants.
right.
Using that as
Yeah,
as an extra statement about maybe
yeah,
you don't
yeah,
need that parking spot. Maybe you can
right.
walk or
Yeah,
bike to church too.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, well, I'm curious. I mean, you've said a little bit about this. Is there anything else you'd want to add regarding how you just, well, maybe you've already said this, but how you discerned what will be good for the congregation? I take it the recycling thing was just a quick win. I like the tactics of that. And
Yeah.
then you said the garden boxes, they connect with things that are already happening. So maybe that's how you discerned it. And then I can't, anything else you can say about how you discerned, like, where are we going to start and how will we know our people?
Yeah. That's a good question. The discerning process was really about um, uh, as much as it was about figuring out what folks resonated with, it was also about figuring out what folks didn't resonate with. And
Hmm,
that's not to say that there are elements of creation care that are better than others or worse than others. Um, but having a particular way of doing creation care in your church that people want to do and have that
hmm,
energy about kind of gives that legs.
hmm,
Um, we would talk about certain things like uh, um, um, I'm losing the
hmm.
things that we didn't glom onto
Yeah,
uh, uh,
that's okay.
because we
That's
didn't
all right.
chase them. But
Right.
there were elements where pe we were able to really hone in on the things that mattered,
Hmm,
uh, and were more importantly, I would say, really achievable in our space.
right. Yeah, that's
Um,
important.
um, yeah. Is that
I,
helpful? Does that
yeah,
steer
that's
us a little
fine.
closer?
That's fine. I have two more questions. One is along to do with what did you learn, or what would you do differently, or what would you recommend for somebody who is considering doing CTL? So that's you can think about that. That's one question. And my other question has to do with I know that this tree planting part of CTL has kind of uh, sparked another initiative that I wanted you to at least reference. I think it's something to do with Faithful Forest, I think. So
You're close. You're
not
you're in
quite.
the
Okay.
ballpark.
Okay. I'm in the forest.
Um, I'll
In
jump I'll jump
in the
into that
watershed.
one first because I'm
Okay.
teasing the name here. Yeah, so we did this tree planting project with Consider the Lilies where we took the people who we'd been keeping in the sanctuary and talking to, and we said, come out to this park and we'll plant a bunch of trees. With which was a partnership with the city of Winnipeg. They have
Right.
native tree plantings that they do all over the city. And I used to work there, so I reached out to them when we were planning the conference. And I said, "Hey, I have a group of volunteers who are looking for opportunities to care for the environment in the city. Could we bring them to you, or would you come to a place where we are and we could engage in that together?" And they were really excited about that. And so they said, You've got the people, we've got the plants. Like let's plant lots of trees."
Mhm.
Um, and so we planted, I want to say it was like 278 trees
It was a lot.
in that range.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, with like I think we had a little over 30 people. It was a really
Yeah.
great time. And following that, the guys from the city of Winnipeg reached out to me and they said, "Hey, thanks for that. That was a really great experience." And then in our office, we kind of went, huh, I wonder if we could do, like, if we can't put on the whole conference again, could we do just that again? And so we reached out to them and we pitched this thing called the Faith Forest Initiative, um, where we would basically find out from the city, where do you want to put these planting projects? Where do you want to plant these trees? And we'll reach out to churches and congregations nearby and ask them, would you like to be a part of this greening the community? And they were really excited about that. And so right now we're in conversation with them
Hmm.
to keep that project going. Uh, and tying it back to Westwood, this is another thing that people in the congregation are really excited about. I have people asking me all the time, when's the next tree planting project? I'm
Mhm.
ready. Um, so yeah, that's really a thing that is a creation care project more than at Westwood, but we're hoping that it can grow to
Yeah.
uh, lots of other churches
Yeah.
because they
So
provide
cool.
that resource, and the churches don't have to front the money for the trees or the shovels or anything. Like they
Yeah.
just have to show up with a willing spirit.
It's great.
Um, which
I love the matchmaking.
it's
You
just
know,
it
trees,
makes so much
projects
sense.
that need to be done, and people that are willing to do it. Oh, let's put them together. That's great.
Yeah.
So, what about CTL? What did you learn? What would you do different? What do you recommend for somebody else considering it?
Yeah.
CTL
Um,
is Consider the Lilies. That's our in-house lingo. Sorry, I shouldn't have used that, but
no, that was it was a funny thing. It came up spontaneously from someone who was one of the Westwood people who was part of this Consider the Lilies board, I would call it. I think we called
mm,
it the board.
planning committee.
Um, committee, planning committee. Um, yeah, so I just touch quickly on that. It's really cool to have a committee of Westwood and Rocha people and
Mm,
other like people who are just excited about Consider the Lilies as a concept all
mm,
together in one space, really playing that. I think that really
mm,
marries that well.
mm,
So that's not something I would do differently. Definitely have a group like that.
mhm,
Um, I'll say one thing I would do differently on a logistics side of things is I wouldn't do it in the summer.
mm.
And maybe that's just
Because this
the
was
end.
early June.
This was early June. This was I think it was the 15th of June, like
Yeah.
second week.
Okay.
Um so people are head in at least in Winnipeg, people are headed to their cottages and people
Yeah.
are heading camping already. They got their holiday plans for the weekends. Uh, so I would say don't do, I mean, unless you go when the attendance is going to be good. My thoughts is good would be fall or spring,
Right. May
because
or
you can still
October.
get, because I think you can still get outside and you can still get those
Yeah.
hands-on experiences in that time, but
Right.
people aren't already thinking about their other things
Right.
at that point.
Okay.
So that would be my logistical one. But maybe other times a year still they all still work, maybe. Depends on what you want to do for content.
Mm,
Which I think would bring me to to the other thing that I would change would be um uh I also so I'll preface this with I work with the youth at Westwood.
mm,
And what I tell the youth whenever we're doing something exciting is that you get out of it what you put into it.
mhm,
The way that we advertised Consider the Lilies was we encouraged people to come for the whole weekend, but we're like, we know that people are busy, so come for what you can. Which I think was pretty good, was good for attendance because people would come and go.
mm,
And so we got to reach lots of people that way. But when you reach out to them and you say you come for as much of it as possible, you get more of that fullness.
mm,
One of the things that we got in reflection was people were saying, "Oh, I didn't really get a resolution to this thing," or
mm,
you you taught me how to use a shovel, but you didn't really tell me uh,
mm,
um, how to tell other people to
mm,
get involved in this.
mm,
And to that we kind of said, you missed the other half.
Yeah. Right.
Um, so encouraging kind of that buy-in.
Hmm.
Um, and then kind of the other thing that I would say I would I would change or I would pay attention to is connecting the dots between all of your involved people.
Hmm.
Uh, 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 like I say, Westwood was really new, really eager, but really new to creation care. And so the way that they tried to reach people was a little softer than I
Hmm.
think what's some of the people we brought in who are already fully on board. And I think there's nothing wrong with either one of those approaches. Like I think
Hmm.
that soft, like here's how you get started, and that here's where we are now are both really important. But making sure that you're on the same page and who you're reaching with that soft touch, and who you're
Hmm.
reaching with that here's where we are now kind of
Hmm.
energy. Um, yeah, does that make sense? I wonder.
What I hear there is to what I hear there, what I'm thinking of is when advertising, there's no substitute for a little bit more personalized approach. So I'm sure Westwood had like the broad-based kind of, hey, everybody come one and all. And Arasha was certainly advertising in the community, and that drew in people from other congregations and so on. But to target a few people in your that you're part of the organizing, your planning committee, so you know these people. They go to your same church. So, hey, Alice, I think you would really like this because we're gonna do da, 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 da. Hey,
Yeah.
Simon, I think this is for you. I know you maybe don't think it is, but I think you'd really enjoy this farm tour. And if you hear what the guy says is going to say in the workshop on Saturday afternoon, you might appreciate that. Like,
Mhm.
something like that is what I hear you say. Like, don't be afraid to um, plant some more specific seeds, not just the sort of broadcast, generalized
Yeah.
promotion.
Yeah, definitely expectation on the part of the host for who you want
Mm,
to try and reach is important. And I think we want to
mm,
reach as many people as we can.
yeah.
But also on the participant, like what are you going to hear? What should you be listening for? And
Mm,
having those things available. I
mm,
think that was something that was really good was we had these breakout rooms that were able
yeah.
to reach people at different levels, and then really pointing people to those directions. Like this is for you. I think that's
Yeah.
really helpful.
Well, thank you so much, Graham. This has been great to hear about your experience and the experience at your church. Thanks for sharing it, and I really hope to learn more about how to do this, and I hope to find a few other churches that we can try it with. So, thanks for all you've
Yeah,
shared.
I would definitely recommend it. It's a great experience, and I think it gives people a lot of energy around, hey, we can do this. And
Hmm,
yeah,
hmm,
absolutely. I think I would love to hear about what another church does, because also every
mhm.
church is different.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear what the next Consider the Lilies is like.
yeah, yeah. I do like the customization part of it. I think that's promising. Okay, well, I think we will sort of. I'm going to remove Spotlight now because this is when. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Rocha Canada's Church Earthkeepers Meetups. We have the meetups on this last Tuesday of every month, and we'd love to have you join us next time. To find out more about the meetups or about Arasha, you can check out the show notes or you can click the link for recordings of previous episodes in our archives. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.